to see how Krishna is taking care of his devotee. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. From Srimad Bhagavatam, 8th Canto, Chapter 3, entitled Gajendra's Prayers of Surrender, text 25, is it? Chijivishe Naham Ihamuya Kim. Chijivishe Naham Ihamuya Kim. Antar Bahish Chavritayeba Yonya. Antar Bahish Chavritayeba Yonha. Ichami Kalina Na Yasya Viplavas. Ichami Kalina Na Yasya Viplavas. Tasyatma Lokavaranasya Moksham. Tasyatma Lokavaranasya Moksham. Jijivishenaham ihamuyakim. Antar Bahischa Vrittayeba Yonya. Ichami Kalena Nayasya Viplavas. Tasyatma Loka Varanasya Moksham. Jijivishenaham ihamuyakim. Antar Bahischa Vrittayeba Yonha. Ichami Kalena Nayasya Viplavas. Tasyatma Loka Varanasya Moksham. Jijivishenaham ihamuyakim. Antar Bahischa Vrittayeba Yonya. Ichami Kalena Nayasya Viplavas. Tasyatma Loka Varanasya Moksham. Please chant.
Ichami Kalena Yasha Viplavas. Tasyatma Loka Varanasya Moksham. Tasyatma Loka Varanasya Moksham. Jijivishenaham ihamuyakim. Antar Bahischa Vrittayeba Yonya. Ichami Kalena Yasha Viplavas. Tasyatma Loka Varanasya Moksham. Tasyatma Loka Varanasya Moksham. Jijivishenaham ihamuyakim. Antar Bahischa Vrittayeba Yonya. Ichami Kalena Yasha Viplavas. Tasyatma Loka Varanasya Moksham. Antar Bahischa Ichami Kalena Yasha Viplavas.
Anyone else? Any Mataji? Okay. Jijivishe, wish to live long. Na, not. Aham, I. Iha, in this life. Amuya, or in the next life. I do not wish to live upon being saved from this dangerous position. Kim, what is the value? Anta, internally. Bahi, externally. Cha, and. Avritaya, covered by ignorance. Ibayonya, in this birth as an elephant. Ichami, I desire. Kalena, because of the influence of time. Na, there is not. Yasya, of which. Viplava, annihilation. Tasya, that. Atmaloka avaranasya, from the covering of self-realization. Moksham, liberation. Translation: I do not wish to live anymore after I am released from the attack of the crocodile. What is the use of an elephant's body covered externally and internally by ignorance? I simply desire eternal liberation from the covering of ignorance. That covering is not destroyed by the influence of time. Please repeat. I do not wish to live anymore after I am released from the attack of the crocodile. What is the use of an elephant's body covered externally and internally by ignorance? I simply desire eternal liberation from the covering of ignorance. That covering is not destroyed by the influence of time. Prabhupada ki jai. In this material world, every living entity is covered by the darkness of ignorance. Therefore, the Vedas enjoin that one should approach the Supreme Lord through the spiritual master, who is described and offered prayers in the Gautamiya Tantra as follows. Om Agyanatamarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chachun Militam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Notice it says Shri Gurave, not Guruve. I offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master, who with the torchlight of knowledge has opened my eyes, which were blinded by the darkness of ignorance. Although one may struggle for existence in this material world, to live forever is impossible. One must understand, however, that this struggle for existence is due to ignorance. For otherwise, every living being is an eternal part of the Supreme Lord. There is no need to live as an elephant or man, American or Indian. One should desire only to achieve liberation from the cycle of birth and death. Because of ignorance, we consider every life offered by nature to be happy and pleasing, but in the degraded life within the material world, from the life of Lord Brahma down to that of an ant, no one can actually be happy. We are making so many plans to live happily, but there cannot be any happiness in this material world. However, we may try to make a permanent settlement in this life or that. Om Agyanatamarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chachunamatam Yana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Vakam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Lagate Gram Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Nitaranam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhatta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. I do not wish to live anymore after I am released from the attack of the crocodile. What is the use of an elephant's body covered externally and internally by ignorance? I simply desire eternal liberation from the covering of ignorance. That covering is not destroyed by the influence of time. Interesting here how Prabhupada, in the beginning of the purport, he brings forward the only solution to come free from this covering of ignorance. So unless we're going to get some like super special mercy of the Lord where he appears personally before us, which is extremely unlikely because he's told us what to do. He's told us to go and approach a spiritual master. So this is how he wants us. You know, sometimes people, they want to just go directly to Krishna and they don't want to join any parampara or even have any. It's fashionable nowadays to be eclectic in spirituality. We'll take a little from this and a little from that, a little from this, a little from that. Now you can only do this if you know what the goal of life is. If you take a little from this and a little from that, then how do you know you're not just satisfying your own mental ramblings or material comforts? What is the basis of your judgment if we're being eclectic? So the only really true eclectic can be one who's self-realized because he knows what is knowledge. So he knows where he can take knowledge from. And it doesn't matter where it's from, if it's true knowledge and it's relating to the eternal message of the Lord, and it's not cheating religion. So people are so keen to cheat themselves that being eclectic is it's just an excuse for not actually surrendering, not being accountable, not making a commitment. Now, if you go to, say you leave school and you decide, okay, I'm going to study psychology at Glasgow University. Then 2 weeks later you think, I think I'll study veterinary science at Heriot Watt. And then in a couple of weeks later you go, maybe I'll go to Aberdeen and study social sciences. So how long are you going to be? You're going from one thing to another, one place to another. And you get nowhere in the material world. So after doing that for 4 years, you won't have a degree and nobody will take you seriously. So it's fashionable nowadays because it's convenient. But Srila Prabhupada, I won't mention the name of them, but it was one so-called famous yogi who wrote a book many years ago, some autobiography. And Prabhupada, the one devotee was saying he seemed like a genuine saint. Prabhupada says, that is because you do not know what a saint is. So Prabhupada is very quick to cut in here. And he says, I've been to this man's ashram and he has a statue of Buddha, Jesus, Gandhi. He says, what's Gandhi got to do there? You know, he's not a saint, he's a politician. Now, Prabhupada was a follower of Gandhi, so I think he can speak with authority there. And he says he's got everybody on the shelf. He says he's just a good shopkeeper. You know, he wants to make sure that everybody, you go to the general store and they have everything you want from a safety pin to a can of beans. So he's just making available all the different, you like Buddha, we've got Buddha here. You like Gandhi, here, there's Jesus, there's Muhammad, everybody's there. And that's because, and he doesn't have any requirements to follow any rules and regulations. And so therefore, you get big follower. So if you have, for the undiscerning eye, if you show them some genuine Joe and you show some fake Joe, then if they don't know the difference and there's a different price tag, then they'll take the one with the cheap price tag. Especially if they can't afford the expensive one. One might be £5, one might be £500 or £5,000. They think, oh, it looks the same, let me take the cheap one. And then you go and try to get it valued and they say, I'll just throw it in the bin. It's not getting any value. And another interesting thing is sometimes people have something very valuable and they don't know it. So we shouldn't be like that. We should try to understand and continue to improve our appreciation for the jewel of Krishna consciousness which we have, because if we don't, then we may not take it seriously at some point. And one thing I find helpful in this is to remember where we came from. I don't mean geographically. Yeah, I came from India, Glasgow, Latvia, Aberdeen. That's where I'm from. We're not the body. And we're not thinking, oh, we came from Krishna. Yeah, we can think like that, but to think in terms of where was I before I got Krishna consciousness? Where was I? What was I doing? Where was I heading? And generally, it wasn't somewhere very auspicious. We weren't exactly. Until we started to head in the right direction, until Krishna started calling us to him, then the association we kept, the activities we were engaged in, they weren't conducive for self-realization. They were conducive for getting fried in the material world and then coming to Krishna because it just wasn't working out there. In that sense, that is good, but we should remember that this was what brought us, this is where I was. Let me not forget that, because we don't want to Punar Mushtika Bhava. You know the story of Punar Mushtika Bhava? I'll tell it, but you probably know it as soon as I start. So the mouse was being chased by a cat, and he took shelter in one yogi. This yogi had some mystic power, and so he was able to do some miracle. So the mouse came running to the yogi and says, I'm being chased by a cat, please save me. He says, okay, become a cat. So then the cat seen the mouse become a cat, and he left him. So the mouse was no longer in danger. And then sometime later, yogi's on his meditation, and the cat comes over and being chased by a dog. Please help. Okay, become a dog then. And that's when he was saved. He was happy with that. And then sometime later, the dog came and said, I'm being chased by a tiger. Please save me. So he changed him into a tiger. And then the tiger was looking at the yogi, licking his lips. He's going, Sarira Vidyajal Virendriyate Ikal Maprasadi Govindi. He was thinking like that. So the yogi thought, okay, now you become so puffed up. Punar Mushtika Bhava, again become a mouse. So we should be mindful. And Prabhupada directly told his disciples, some of them were so intelligent, we can't imagine the intelligence these devotees had, and the courage, dedication, the loyalty to Srila Prabhupada. They risked their lives and they went to dangerous places. And they depended on Prabhupada, they depended on Krishna. But sometimes Prabhupada would tell them, don't forget, I'm your intelligence. And what is that intelligence? What is the intelligence that he's talking about here? When Prabhupada tells his disciple, don't forget, I'm your intelligence. Instructions, yeah. It might be found in the books, or it might be found directly coming from the spiritual master, or things you've heard him say that are recorded lectures. And these instructions, they shape our life. They're breaking away our conditioning, and they're herding us in to the narrow gateway, which is the gateway to the spiritual world. If the sheep is running free everywhere, but in that field, there may be some dangerous animals which can attack at any time, then they're herded into a place of safety where they can be looked after. So we shouldn't think we have some freedom in this material world. Shishi Kodnitai, Mahaprasad Shiki Jai. Our freedom in this material world is exactly like the animal which is due for slaughter and is roaming around the field thinking it's free, chewing away thinking, oh, this is good, we've got so much freedom here, we can run about, we can have a little nibble on this hedge, have a little grazing on the grass. But in due course of time, it doesn't know it, that the farmer has made a plan, a very devious, nasty plan. So this is for us also. We're running around the material world thinking we're free, enjoying the senses, doing what we think unrestrictedly. Not the devotees, of course. The devotees, they're safe by following the instructions of the spiritual master, by following the regulative principles and chanting Hare Krishna. The devotees, we may be afraid simply because of some residual ignorance, but as we keep chanting and following, then the fear will go. Vita ragabaya kroda manmaya mam upashritaha bahavo gyanatapasa putamadbhavam agataha. Become free from attachment, fear and anger by remembering Krishna. Krishna explains this in Gita that many persons in the past become purified by knowledge of me and thus attain transcendent love for me. So this knowledge of Krishna is simply not book knowledge. It means knowledge of actively engaging in devotional service. You know, you can imagine, okay, reading books, we have to read Prabhupada's books so we understand and we don't forget why we're engaging in service. Engaging in service is not enough. We have to continue to sharpen our spiritual understanding so that we can explain if someone asks us, so we can understand, and so we know the pitfalls and we know the path to follow. But if we simply read and then imagine you go back to Godhead and then someone says, okay, Krishna's having some pastimes, let's go, and sorry, I'm just reading. I'm reading Bhagavad Gita. I'm on doing a certain course just now. You know, so the knowledge shouldn't be book knowledge, it has to be applied. The theory has to be there to start with, otherwise we don't know where to put the next step. We wouldn't know anything if the theory is not there, but then the theory gets put into practice and it becomes vijnana, it becomes realized knowledge. So some parts of that are easier to apply than others, but that's okay. It can take some time, gradual increments. Lord Brahma says that we make advancement by gradual increments and gradually, just while tolerating the reactions of our good and bad activities. Now, we're not just tolerating distress. Krishna talks about tolerating happiness and distress. Why would we want to tolerate happiness? You know, we want happiness. What's he on about? Anybody? Distress, we want to tolerate that because we don't want distress. What about tolerating happiness?
You can get elated sometimes if you're happy.
Yeah, and then what happens? You maybe forget yourself.
Yeah.
Do something stupid or offensive.
Why we're happy.
Yeah.
There's a source of the happiness.
Well, we see extreme examples of this when people get intoxicated, right? Saturday night, it's a Maha night for the Karmis. They're drinking so much alcohol and they're so happy that they forget themselves and do something crazy and end up in prison or something. Or they end up regretting it the next day, having to make some apologies, saying never again, I'm not going to do that again until the next Saturday. Boga Tyag. They renounce because of the misery, because it's causing too much trouble. But then when the renunciation is too much trouble, then they want to enjoy again. Yeah, anything else about tolerating happiness?
Other side of the same coin. You have happiness, then you have distress again. You change all the time. It's just a lack of suffering, really.
Yeah. So yeah, two good points there is that Prabhupada in this song Radha Krishna Bol Bol Bolori Sabai Ishikadiya Shabnadiya Pirchinechi Gornitai, he says that this suffering in the material world, or enjoyment in the material world, is like when your head is put under water, you're suffering, and then momentarily your head is brought above water, and we're considering this enjoyment, and then soon head is going under again. Mostly we're suffering, a little enjoyment. What is that enjoyment? Relief. That's what it is. It's relief from the distress. If you're having to hold your breath, if you're holding it voluntarily, that's okay. You can, you can breathe anytime you want. But if you're being forced underwater and you don't know when you're going to get a breath again, as soon as it comes up, you're gasping as much as you can, and then back down again. So we're suffering so much. When we get a little enjoyment, we just try to enjoy it so much that we forget ourselves, and then we do something which is contrary to the law of karma, and we have to suffer again. And then sometimes we have some good karma, we become conditioned by this. Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita that the demigods, or those in the mode of goodness, they become conditioned by a sense of happiness. So we have to be careful that our happiness is not simply material, creating a material condition where it interrupts our devotional service. And sometimes people think you should only do something if you feel inspired to do it. Well, what if we don't feel inspired? We might go into what we were talking about earlier on in the nectar of devotion, laziness. Yeah, I feel inspired to stay in bed all day today. And try that at work. How long will you last? At the end of our life, the mode of ignorance is still there, and then we have to take birth again. So it's not unusual to want to become free from the lower modes of material nature, tamas and rajas, ignorance and passion, because we suffer due to these. In the mode of passion, sometimes we think we're creating some situation, but with a little knowledge, we understand that anything we create is going to be zero in due course of time. If we create a big reputation, or we create a big stock of property or bank balance, then at the end of this life, then it's gone, it doesn't go with us. Unfortunately, some of these previous civilizations thought that they could bury all their wealth with them, spent all their life accumulating wealth, getting into big positions so they can accumulate wealth, thinking they'll take it with them. But then some archaeologist comes along and digs it up and realizes, no, they didn't take it with them. And of course, as soon as they leave their body, they'll find that they haven't taken it with them, because they'll be meeting the Yamadutas. What about my stuff? No, you can't bring that. So when the devotees engage in devotional service and utilize everything in the service without attachment, this is called yukta vairagya, then they're not attached to that, they're attached to serving, and if the facilities are there, they'll use it, and if they're not there, they'll still serve. Just like when Prabhupada was going to the West, his spiritual master told him, if no one's there, preach to the four walls. So he's doing his duty, and then if someone happens to enter into the room with the four walls, he preaches to them. So we're practicing. So therefore, when we're reading, we should read with intent that not only is this reading for me, for my understanding, but I want to be able to know how is this going to help others come to Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada said, simply for preaching, we just share what we've learned. That's all. Don't try to be concerned about having to give the highest philosophical class to anybody. Just what makes us inspired, what we experience. And in devotional service, it's explained that the first symptom of pure devotional service is relief from material distress. So that comes as a byproduct. But if we become too concerned simply with material distress, and we become free from that, then the material desires are not cleansed, then we could fall back into that again. So this is a test of sincerity, that as we start to become free from the clutches of Maya, and we become more free in our state of mind, do we just think, okay, now that I'm free, I can enjoy again? Now that the slate is clean, now that the elephant has been cleansed after taking much bath, can I go and roll in the dirt again? And this is typically what Gajendra and his herd of elephants would be doing. They would take a great bath, washing themselves, washing each other, and then as soon as they come out, they roll in the dust because they feel comfortable in that dirty condition. So Prabhupada refers to this second nature of the living entity because we're conditioned so long, Nityabada. It seems like eternity, we cannot trace it, but actually the message is given here that we're eternal parts and parcels of the Lord. We're not eternally conditioned. It's only like a conventional term. Conventional means that a term would relate to in this material world. It's so long. Like if you were to tell someone, you've been in this material world for 1 billion births, they'd think, well, how long is that? Well, it depends what your births. Some of the births might have been hundreds of thousands of years, some of them might be in a day, but it's untraceable. But in relation to eternal life full of bliss and knowledge, then this is, any measurement of time cannot be compared at all to eternity, which is without beginning and without end. And if the soul cannot be killed, it doesn't come into being, it doesn't cease to exist. That means it's eternal part and parcels of the Lord. Nityas nityananam chetanas chetananam. So of all the living entities, the eternal living entities, then Krishna is the chief of these living entities. So in the Shastra, not only is the eternal nature of the soul explained, but that bliss and knowledge, and that bliss and knowledge is there, anandam budhivardhanam, ever-increasing ocean of transcendental bliss, is there because we are infinitesimal part and parcel of Krishna, and the Lord is infinite. So our capacity to experience and understand the Lord is infinite as well, because he is, it's not that he is finite and we understand him. Like you get some subject, you understand the subject, and that's it. You can't go any further with it. But Krishna is not some finite subject. So therefore his devotees are ecstatic, they're not static. We're always finding out new things about Krishna, sharing, enlightening one another about Krishna. And because devotees have different realizations, that's why we come together to speak and to hear from each other, is because, in Bhagavatam class or any other type of conversation or Vyasa Puja, it's a very good time to see a devotee's heart, because you see what is inspiring them. And then someone who, in your day-to-day activities, you thought was a bit of a bit dodgy or a bit iffy, and you think, you see some devotees looking at each other just now. Sometimes in our day-to-day dealings we become over-familiar and we think, oh, it's just him, it's just her. Who are they anyway? And then you hear them reading the Vyasa Puja offering, so much full of appreciation, depth, understanding, and they're inspiring us to appreciate them more and more. So therefore, it's important that we try to see the devotee as a devotee and see ourselves as a devotee. I remember one senior devotee gave a class some time ago, and he said, when the mind comes up with saying things like, do this, do that, you say, no, I don't do that any longer, I'm a devotee. My dear mind, sorry, I can't do that, I'm a devotee. So we start to identify more and more as a devotee. If we identify with our fallen condition, this is like a sense of false humility. We can identify it in the sense that I did that was stupid, foolish, but now I've got this, so I'm not going back to that. But don't get stuck on over-lamenting about whatever fallen past we had. Krishna doesn't want our past, he wants our future. He's not concerned. Even if you're the most sinful of all sinners, when you're situated on this path, then you're free. There's nothing to hold you back. So sometimes reflecting on where we were in the past can be inspirational if we think, that's where I was, I'm lucky now, and there's so many like that, I could be there if I'm not careful. So let me be careful, vigilant on the path of devotional service. And Gajendra, he had made some mistake, Indrajumna Maharaj, wasn't it? So, and then he took the body of Gajendra the elephant, and he was enjoying so much. But then, just when he was enjoying in the water, experiencing some relief from the hot weather, etc., then snap. Just like you got a crocodile sandwich, right, and they made it snappy. Yep, the crocodile came along and caused so much distress. And the good side of this distress was that he was so distressed that he thought, this material body is a source of distress. I don't want to have another material body. As long as we have a material body, then we're going to get distressed. So going to the heavenly planets, the enjoyment might be attractive, but having to take birth again is not attractive. And Krishna explains, even in the heavenly planets, it's not free from misery, because there's a threat that demons may come and try to take over, and they do from time to time. And ultimately, even if you were to go to the heavenly planets and enjoy for millions of years, or hundreds of thousands of years, when it's over, and then you're back here again, it's like, oh no, this is reality. That was just like a big funky dream where we were enjoying ourselves to the max, and now it's over. The bank balance is spent, you're back on the bread line, standing in line for the soup kitchen. So this knowledge is there. Let's take advantage of it and try to develop unconditional devotional service. The lifetime is very short. We think while we're in this life that it's lasting a long time. Each moment seems to last. Especially if we're not happy, then time can pass slowly. Or when you're enjoying, time flies. But when people come to the end of their life, they generally don't think, man, that took ages. They're like, wow, it just went so quickly. And as time goes on, as you get older, you seem to see the passing of time moving quickly. When you're young, you feel like if you're going to live to 70, it's almost like an eternity. You can't conceive of it. But as you go on, then you realise, actually, that's passed by quick, because I can just remember some of these things like it was yesterday. We don't see the imperceptible hand of time moving. So we want that at the end of this lifetime, we don't have any regrets. We've made the right choices, and so far, if we're in devotional service, we're chanting Hare Krishna, we're taking Krishna Prasad, associating with devotees, then we're making the right choices. So keep making the right choices. And this inheritance, which Lord Brahma talks about, that simply by engaging in this devotional service, all the while tolerating the results of our past activities, good and bad, then all that will be left is our true inheritance, which is pure devotional service. Yeah, so even good, we just on Sunday we had Govardhan Puja celebration, and I gave a short talk, and afterwards one man I hadn't met before came and he said he was interested in finding out about becoming free from his bad karma, and I made the point that you actually want to become free from your good karma as well. If you have good karma, maybe it's your karma that you have some influence due to fame, position, wealth, or whatever. Use that good karma in Krishna's service, and then it's not going to bind you. But if you simply want to do some punya, then what is punya means that you have to take a birth again to get that good reaction. And what happens if you're in the wrong association and you use that good reaction for a bad purpose? Like some people might be quite wealthy just now, but what have they done to get that wealth? And what will the reaction be? So we won't be envious of that. Sometimes you're envious of someone's situation, but in the material world, people are envious of each other, but they won't be envious of the reactions when they come. And taking this life simply to make good fortune for the next life, then the para upakar, the highest welfare work, is Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada said that the highest form of compassion is compassion for yourself. So this is in relation to, you have to save yourself first before you can save anyone else. If while trying to save someone else we lose ourselves, then that's not recommended. So therefore we don't compromise with our principles and our vows. We keep them. And even devotional service, if we made some vow to do 16 rounds a day, if for some reason we get too much service we can't get our rounds done, then we have to do less so we can get our rounds done. Simple as that. That's an important thing. And just finally, Prabhupada says here, we're making so many plans to live happily, but there cannot be any happiness in this material world. However, we may try to make a permanent settlement in this life or that. So, naiti, not this life, not that life, whatever situation we make. Bear in mind that this is temporary, and that is the good news. I mean, who would want to live forever in the material world? It's a danger at every step. And whatever plans we may try, then they will be frustrated. So best we make plans to get out of this material world and make plans to go back to Godhead. So therefore we take up the practice of Krishna consciousness and we stick to that, come what may. Any questions or comments? Yes, no, very good.
Thank you, Prabhu, for a very nice class. I was thinking about this prayer that Gajendra is making, and whether it's something that we should also kind of think about, like, not being conditioned by the mode of ignorance, or we should just do our service and then it'll fall away. And it's like something we should cultivate, this mood.
Prabhupada says that we don't have to make any extraneous. I mean, there's different things he said, but one thing I just read recently says we don't have to make any extraneous endeavour to develop this quality or that quality. We have to chant Hare Krishna and all good qualities will come. But chant Hare Krishna, not in a lazy sense that we just mechanically chant it and we're just thinking of other things. He's talking about really endeavouring to try to hear the holy name and connect with the holy name, because Krishna has all good qualities. If we associate with him, then the good qualities will come. At the same time, we shouldn't be lazy. Like if it requires us to be respectful to someone, we don't feel respectful, think, well, I'll just chant Hare Krishna, it doesn't matter how I treat them, because you might be offensive. So we have to, chanting Hare Krishna means observing the 10 offences, not just observing or self-committing them, but to observe, avoiding making these offences. Anyone like to comment on that or add? Adoksha, do you have anything further to add?
Well, it was just like that verse that you said, Tatina Kampa, you just carry on. And whatever reactions come your way, you accept it's just a token of what you were doing.
So in terms of, we are making some definite attempts to get out of the lower modes, such as if you read the divisions of faith in the 3 modes of material nature, you read that, then you'll see the activities, faith, charity in the different modes. So the knowledge we gain from this, that affects how we act. We don't give in charity to someone who's suffering, which is going to increase their suffering. So say for example, there's some beggar on the street and they're saying they're hungry. Don't give them a steak, because we're going to get a reaction, they're going to get a reaction. We give them Krishna Prasad, then everyone's benefited. So this is even above the mode of goodness. And levels of determination, right? The determination in the mode of ignorance is, can anyone remember that one? It goes no further than dreaming. So like these armchair philosophers, they're solving the problems of the world, but it never goes any further than just, bumping their gums, just talking. And so explaining, understanding what Krishna says about the activities and behaviours of the lower modes, we can sometimes identify with ourselves in these, and we think, okay, I need to improve from this. I sort of mentioned it many times before. When I first time read Bhagavad Gita, 16th chapter, and first of all, the characteristics of the divine are explained, and I'm thinking, oh, that sounds like me. And then I went on to the next verses, and it's the characteristics of a demonic person. I thought, no, actually, that sounds like me. That's what I'd like to think, but this is really what I'm like. So we want to go from that to that, from the Asura to Sura. So self-realization means that we do, by chanting Hare Krishna, associating with devotees, reading the scriptures, engaging in service, then we become aware of our shortcomings and we try to be better. We do make an endeavour to do that. Make an endeavour to respect the devotees. It may be mechanical to begin with. We may offer obeisances to devotees, and sometimes we offer obeisances to devotees. We do it every morning to everybody, and sometimes there may be people in amongst that crowd that we would rather not offer obeisances to. We're not very happy with them, but we do it. And we just keep an association and try to, Lord Chaitanya and Prabhupada said, try to see the good in others. So, there must be some trying, not kind of lazy, I'll just chant Hare Krishna and chant 64 rounds a day, and I don't even have to listen to them, it'll just happen. Numerically, that should be there, but we should still be endeavouring. Okay, we'll just stop there, unless someone's getting anything else finally. It's going to go in the key. Srila Prabhupada ki, Karantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Yatai Gora Premanande, Gora Bhakta Vrinda ki.